Here is a quick tutorial on how to read latitudes and longitudes on a globe. First, locate the spin axis of the globe, which is a fixed line at two opposite ends of the globe, around which the whole globe rotates. Over here is the North Pole, and here is the South Pole. Those are two cardinal directions. As for east and west, east is defined as the direction in which the globe, well, the Earth is rotating, which in our case, when you point north upward, is going to be towards the right. So east is this way. And west, of course, is the opposite. Next, let's talk latitudes. The reference latitude is the dividing line exactly midway between the North and South Pole around the globe, known as the equator. This is defined as 0 latitude. All other latitudes are parallel to this line and are designated by these lines going from west to east. Because latitudes are defined by angles, they go from 0 to 90 degrees, 90 degrees being the definition of a pole. So over here, if you look very closely, you will start seeing from the equator the designation 15N for 15 degrees north, 30 degrees north, 45 degrees north, 60 degrees, 75, and all the way to 90 North Pole, as opposed to going southward, where looking at these parallel lines to the equator, you will read 15 degrees south, 30 degrees, 45 degrees south, 60 degrees, and the South Pole is 90 degrees. Now for longitudinal lines. Longitudinal lines are all these lines perpendicular to the equator, all of them running straight from the South Pole to the North Pole. And they have a slightly more arbitrary choosing of coordinates because of historical reasons. 0 degrees longitude is defined as going through the Greenwich Observatory in the United Kingdom. Everything to the right this way, if you are facing north, is known as eastern longitudes. And on this globe, you can see 15 degrees east longitude, 30 degrees, 45 degrees, 60 degrees east longitude, 75, 90, 105, 120, 135, 150, 165, and opposite on the globe all the way from the zero longitude is 180 degrees longitude. Going west, so here was our 0 degrees longitude. This is 15 degrees west, 30 degrees west, 45 degrees west, 60 degrees, 75, 90 degrees west, 105 west, 120 degrees west, 135 degrees west, 150 degrees, 165 west, and once again we end up on the opposite side of the globe at 180 degrees. Here are a couple of examples of how to read latitude and longitude for certain given places. Let's start with the example of, say, Cairo, Egypt. First, you need to find where it is on the globe. Egypt is in northern Africa. Cairo, its capital, you know, it's a capital city because it is designated by a star. And then you look for the nearest lines. Then you will need to figure out what these lines correspond to. Let's start with latitude first. Let's trace this line back to where we can see a number, and it is near 30 degrees north. Next, let's trace the line back to where we see a number, and it also happens to be at 30 degrees east longitude for our purposes. Let's pick a different one. Let's pick one from perhaps South America. Let's try to figure out, say, the approximate location of Buenos Aires in Argentina. So first of all, you will need to find Argentina. Then you need to carefully look around until you find Buenos Aires. Then you look for the lines nearest it. Let's start with latitude. Now this one is not on an exact latitude, it is slightly south of it, but let's take a look. Rotate the globe until you see a number along that latitude, and this is at 30 degrees south. This would have been 45, so it's in between. So Buenos Aires is somewhere around 35 degrees south latitude. Let's take a look at the longitude line. Let's trace it back to where we can see a number, and it is a little bit under 60 degrees west longitude. Alternately, somebody might give you the coordinates and you need to tell them what is located at that position. So in this example, I'm going to use the coordinates 5 degrees south and 105 degrees east. What is located nearest those coordinates? So for 5 degrees south, you start with the equator, of course, and 5 degrees south is not too far from it, but it is in between the equator and 15 degrees south. So we are going to start looking over here. Going eastward from the zero meridian, the prime meridian, let's see where the numbers get to the number 105. And remember, we are at 5 degrees south. So apparently we are in Indonesia, and probably what the person was asking for is the capital of Indonesia, which is Jakarta. Sometimes questions ask, well, what is opposite our place or some place on the globe, say opposite but still at the same latitude? A common mistake to make is to say, well, 5 degrees east is opposite 5 degrees west. But certainly it is not, because if you turn to the prime meridian, 5 degrees east would be here, 5 degrees west would be here. They are definitely not opposite. The trick to get to the opposite side of the world is to take your longitude and trace it through a pole to the opposite side. So 5 degrees east, if you trace it through the pole, you will actually end up at 175 degrees west in the middle of the Pacific. Latitudes, on the other hand, are also a bit tricky, because once again, 10 degrees north is certainly not opposite 10 degrees south. However, because you can combine the longitude argument with the latitude, you will go to 10 degrees south, but you will do it on the opposite side using the longitude argument. Here is a demonstration. Suppose the question is, what is on the opposite side of the globe from Bolivia? First, read that Bolivia is at 15 degrees south and somewhere around 60 degrees west. So what we are looking for is something that is 15 degrees north, but we need to now trace the longitudinal line to the other side of the globe, which corresponds to 120 degrees east, and follow it all the way down to 15 degrees north. And it turns out that Bolivia is opposite on the globe to the Philippines.